The air is still intense in this particular grove on this particular day. There must be thousands of them here, packed in tight. The fading lavender sunlight draws the shadows of the trees long over the ground and gives a yellowish hue to the sides of the tight, drawn faces. A glinting pink light from the tusks protruding from the lower jaws of most of the attendees. Before the mass is a small, elongated rectangle made of dried sticks and wood. Atop it is the body of an immense orc, its green skin drawn tight over the hulking muscles below. There are no movements below the golden fabric draped over the body, no motion of breath. The face is visible above the golden fleece. One fractured tusk remains below the closed eyes. The expression is almost peaceful, if not eerily still. Beyond the pyre, raised about 5 feet above the ground, is a hastily built wooden dais, starkly juxtaposed with an ornate podium that sits upon it. The sound of footsteps through the foliage can be heard as one orc in a shimmering, glamorous robe, with his chest bared below it, steps onto the stage and up to the pulpit, places his broad hands upon the edge and grips the podium tight, as if to gather the strength of the gilded structure into himself. He casts his eyes about the crowd of his peers, his community, and takes a deep breath in, before resting his eyes upon the remains of his friend, his champion.
One of ours has fallen. And today we grieve this loss. We stand before the gods and impress upon Garumsh that our chief, in his day, has spilled enough blood, claimed enough lives and land for the Donskar people, that he be given haven in Acheron, upon the infinite battlefield. If Garumsh does not see fit to give him access, then we beseech Ilneval, the War Maker, to take our fallen into his fold, for his cunning will be the fabric from which many tale is woven. Those of us gathered here before you, O gods of our ancestors, ask you to take his essence and bestow upon him a place of honor. The long years of peace and prosperity in our clan should serve as enough confirmation for those who bear witness. But we, the Donskar people, have communed before you in solidarity to sway you yet further. Tarok the Blaze deserves your favor. Tarok the Blaze to Acheron, to the infinite battlefield.
Tarok the Blaze to Acheron, to the infinite battlefield.
Hey there, creatures, and welcome to Encounter This, a podcast exploration of the creatures from Dungeons & Dragons and the lore that surrounds them.
Well, hello there, listeners and creatures. Get ready for a very interesting adventure. A very interesting adventure in which we completely change up the format yet again here on Encounter This. I am your co-host, Freeman Orcus Eyston, and the man responsible for this possible travesty, but a very interesting travesty, no doubt, is, of course, my co-host, James Dorcas Kidd. And he's going to be taking us through, in this particular episode, the lore surrounding orcs in our very first episode for Orctober. James is also responsible for that pun. And
send your hate mail to info@encounterthis.ca.
He also came up with Haguary way back when. I think he came up with Fapril too. I think he came up with all of them.
We have an upcoming one that you came up with that I'm really excited about.
Do we? So. I don't even remember what it is. We are going to be covering probably entirely too much information in this episode. And it is going to be coming from two different books, Monster Manual, page 244 and 245, as well as Volar's Guide to Monsters, page 82 to 91, nearly 10 pages worth there. And I'm super stoked because I have done almost zero research on orcs, or at least the last time I would have been, like 3 or 4 years ago. And so I'm as good as going in blind. So, James, take it away.
I guess I should start with an apology. This whole suite is just going to be a lot of me talking pretty much at you as opposed to you. The way we're going to break it down is we're going to do this episode, which is going to be all of the orc lore that I could need, and then we will do a separate episode that's mainly stat blocks. So we're gonna break them apart, kind of like we did for Knowles, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a lot. I really had to cut these episodes down to size, and I didn't do a good job of that. So I missed something for sure. I'm going to glaze by some stuff that people really want to hear about. And if you want to know more, our sources are Vola's Guide, the Monster Manual, the Forgotten Realms, Wikipedia, and that's about all that I could fit into this document. This is probably the most research I've ever done for an episode. Aside Rakshasa, where I learned how to pronounce Middle Eastern names.
And even then, it was that was a rough one. It was so fun though. It was so interesting, but man, that was a tough one. It was just like the was it Coatl? just trying to get our tongues around those. So white. Yeah. And so Canadian, but I'm so stoked. I'm so stoked for this. Of course, we both put a lot of effort in a couple of these suites, so I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty lovely when it becomes not my turn.
Yeah, I believe it.
So I am ready for the ride. Talk at me. I will try to leave my peanuts to the minimum from the comment gallery, but bring it on. I think it's gonna be really fun.
So we are going to start with the D&D lore. That's most of what this episode's going to be.
Oh my god, the format hasn't changed. Amazing.
I did my best to try and keep it together, but we'll see how miserably I failed. So
it's probably worth mentioning right out of the gate now. Well, I say right out of the gate. We're about 5 minutes in, but there's not going to be any stat blocks in this one. Is that correct?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay.
That will be a whole separate episode.
This one is totally lore-based, which gives me one pause for concern. Where do we crack the beer?
I have the ad break written.
Perfect.
Don't you worry.
Okay, cool.
It's after the D&D lore. Yeah,
I was just worried I was going to do this one sober. That's all.
The problem is this is a 6-page document, and I think that's on page 5.
Oh boy. Okay. Without further ado, D&D lore, go.
According to 5e, orcs are also known as the Godsworn. They are, quote, savage raiders and pillagers with stooped postures, lower foreheads, and piggish faces with prominent lower canines that resemble tusks. Continuing on that quote, every soldier that lives through a fight with orcs tells of confronting a hulking foe that can cleave clear through a warrior with a single blow.
Damn.
I'm sure you guys all know what an orc is. So I'm not even gonna. We'll get to that when we get to the orcs. They are typically green-skinned humanoids, but they can be gray-skinned, blue-skinned, purple-skinned. There's not really a whole lot of
rhyme or reason.
Yeah, with that, it's probably worth mentioning that like this is going to be. We've already stated this is a big suite, and it's Orctober. So he said when we cover orcs alone are just not the only thing involved in this. There's going to be so much more than just plain old orcs. And I'm so excited. I can't even tell you.
So we'll start at the beginning. The orcs worship a god known as Gruumsh One-Eye, their creator, deity, and the mightiest warrior in their pantheon. In ancient times, when the gods divided the planet, Gruumsh went to stake his claim upon the mountains, but he had found it had been claimed by dwarves. He then went to settle in the forest, but that too had been claimed by elves. Each place Gruumsh went to settle had already been claimed, and the other gods laughed at him. So he responded with a bellow and took up his spear. He laid seed to the mountains and set the forests ablaze and carved great furrows in the fields and proclaimed that his kin would destroy and take from any race that would deny Gruumsh and his orcs. During this battle, the elven god Corellin Larethian half-blinded Gruumsh, setting the foundation for the orcs' particular vehemence for elves. Now it is said that Gruumsh will bestow spectacular favor on any of his kind that willingly pluck out an eye in his honor.
Ooh, that's heavy.
That is the creationist, I want to say myth, but they believe it to be fact. So.
Now, I think, if I were to recall, the only time we've really touched on Gruumsh was in Ettins, at least in any amount of detail. Because there was I can't quite recall the details, but there was a belief that, Ettins were essentially evolved from or created by Gruumsh and or orcs and so on and so forth.
Yeah, so Gruumsh is known as the one-eyed god, and there is a picture of him from 3E where he kind of looks like a cyclops, holding a spear. That's the first photo I've got in the drive.
Oh, yeah.
The next photo is an artistic rendering of Corellian. He's got his gilded elven male in a flowing blue cape, very androgynous.
Yep.
And that picture of Corellian is from Deities and Demigods, so it's from 2E.
Okay.
So Orc society is about as complicated as you think it's going to be as humanoid creatures. They are known to be savage and fearless, and, quote, theirs is a life that has no place for weakness, and every warrior must be strong enough to take what is needed by force. Which is, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
They are written to be naturally chaotic and act on their instincts rather than emotions most of the time. Mm-hmm. Strength and power are the greatest of their virtues. So orcs embrace all types of mighty creatures, but they are motivated by their hatred of the civilized races. So they're constantly in search of elves and dwarves and humans to destroy them because of what they did to Gruumsh in the Division of Lands.
Right. Okay.
Though Vola's Guide to Monsters does walk this back a bit on page 86, and they will kill anyone who presents a threat but are more interested in plunder, whereas previous to the release of Volos, they're just murder hobos. They will They will end any lives they come across without second thought or anything. So Vola's walked it back to only if they get in their way.
Gotcha. Okay.
With the exception being elves. They will stop what they're doing just to mess up an elf. Any day, anytime.
Damn.
They are elf racists.
Yeah. Elf racist. Not cool, bro. Not cool.
That being said, within their society, there is no concept of racial purity or anything like that. So they eagerly welcome trolls, ogres, half-orcs, urogs, and even some humans. And they tend to revere giants. Anything that's strong and powerful, they will happily adopt into their tribe.
Right.
And when they do, they have no problem pairing or bonding with these creatures. So they take no mates, and they take no pleasure in reproduction. It's just a mundane part of their life. But their goddess Luthik demands fertility, and they demand they procreate often and without discrimination.
Okay, and Luthik, are we gonna get into Luthik later?
Oh yeah, we are.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
Yeah, we're gonna walk through the whole pantheon real quick.
Oh baby.
So this demand to breed without discrimination gives rise to many crossbreeds. When procreating with a non-orc of similar size, the resulting child is either a full orc or a half-orc. There is no other combination of genomes, I guess.
Okay.
Except when they mate with an ogre, in which case the offspring is a half ogre, also known as an ogreon, which is just a fantastic word.
Yeah. Also worth noting, ogreon is a double L where that Y sound is, which is sort of it's a classic sort of French thing, if I recall correctly, and or Spanish. I'm not sure. One of those romantic languages. I know it happens in French a lot.
Yeah, I actually don't know if that's the right way to pronounce it. That might be the one word in here that I didn't look up, but I'm going to go with ogreon.
I'm happy with it. We both know a little bit of French, so maybe we're a little bit biased. That's fine.
Yeah, I mean, we spent some time on the East Coast, eh?
Yeah, for sure. We can give him a little bit of a benefit of doubt here because we give him so much fucking shit on the show, right?
Yeah, we do tend to rip into him there, bud.
Oh, yeah, bud.
So at about 4 years old, orcs are considered juvenile, and by 12, they're considered an adult. Their average lifespan is up to about 25, but can be as old as 40.
Okay. Now, do you know if 40 is like the oldest they get before they die in combat, or do they...
No, that's why the average lifespan is about 25.
Right.
40 is like they have been blessed with a long life and good health and no diseases.
Okay, and so that is them deteriorating naturally at around the age of 40 and dying.
Yeah.
Okay.
The oldest known orc, give or take, that Volo has come across was 40.
Live fast, die young, I guess.
That's actually exactly it. Because of that kind of lifestyle, young orcs mature very quickly because they need to in order to survive.
Yeah.
And the children that cannot keep up with the hard life are taken to, well, I guess taken's the right word, for one of the other gods in their pantheon, Utrus or Shargas. And then Utrus and Shargas will then accept or reject, and we'll get more into that when we get into the pantheon. So as a society, they have a written language. They have a written and spoken language, but they're not what we would consider literate. They don't keep records, and their signage is like hobo code. Like, it's very basic. It's just food, danger, shelter, etc.
Okay, cool.
Is hobo an offensive word?
I think it is, depending on context, because from what I recall, and I'm no expert on the matter, there was a derogatory level of using that word, but originally hobo just meant like traveling worker, right? Like you just traveled and picked up jogs and then moved on, and there was no real downside to that. And I might recall that it was a very common thing, especially in the Great Depression. Right. But as with many things, maybe a certain few individuals sour the concept and the idea just because they happen to be a part of a certain community or group. And then those who consider themselves better harp upon them and turn words such as hobo into something poor and derisive. Right. Which just is not necessarily true, but somehow sticks. So, well,
the proper noun for this language is hobo code. But we can call it transient dialect.
Yeah. Okay. Sure.
Transient pictographs.
That's pretty decent. That's a good, real neutral term. It's really hard to be. You speak transient dialect, you pleb. It just doesn't really. Can't really harp on someone for that.
I guess not.
I like it.
So the orc language is very similar to that. It's just pictographs representing a concept. Mm-hmm. And they do have a little bit of reverie for three colors in particular. One is red ochre, and it means blood in their culture. The other is gray ash, which means death. And then charcoal black, which means darkness. Orcs will paint themselves with these materials and these colors in different patterns, and that's one of the ways that they individualize themselves. And they can even get into fights about it. So, like, if a war chief dyes his tusks red, because he's slain so many people with his tusks, he can then forbid anybody else in his tribe to dye their tusks red.
Would the inverse be true too, where someone would be like, "Nah, you haven't killed enough to dye your tusks"? So I challenge that.
Not to a war chief, but
okay, well, fair enough.
Like inner tribe, yes,
yeah,
absolutely,
okay. Cool. That's pretty neat, actually. I wish there was a longer list, and that might be your creative hook there, to create a longer list of those things if you're really writing into larger orc tribes and creating a setting and campaign around that. That'd be cool.
Yeah, that would be really neat. And again, I'm just kind of grazing through some of this stuff. Like, there's a lot. If you want to go into orc color theory, there's a lot you can pull from other places. Like Warhammer 40K is really big orc into color. Like, orcs are some of the most powerful psionics in the galaxy. Like, they paint their trucks red because they go fast, because red makes them go faster.
No kidding.
But they actually just believe so hard that painting them red goes faster that their psionic energy makes them go faster.
That's amazing. So they have this psionic energy but they don't really know how to use it.
They're not smart enough to know how it works. So they just believe,
really
like,
cool.
they embody the power of belief.
I love that. I love that so much. I mean, you've talked a lot about like Warhammer lore and how just on the nose cheesy it is.
Oh, dude, it's so bad.
But but every time you tell me a part of it, I'm like, that's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, there's a reason I'm painting miniatures for the game. Like, yeah, it's great.
It's so bad, it's good.
Yeah, I love cheese like that. Like, it's good. So that was their society paragraph. Now we're going to go into settlements. So, as I'm sure you picked up on, they gather in what are known as tribes. They then settle near other settlements, like villages or cities or something like that, somewhere where they have access to raiding and pillaging. Mm-hmm. They prefer mountainous areas, somewhere where they can put their backs up against a wall and maybe pen themselves in so they can have strategic use and build kind of a makeshift fortress. And within each camp, it is divided by the gods. So if you are a follower of Grumsh, Ilnaval, Bogtru, or Luthic, you are given access to what are known as the best parts of the camp. Whereas if you are a follower of Yurtris or Shargas, you are kind of relegated to the outskirts or even underground. And it's not like a bad thing. Like the followers of Shargas kind of prefer to be underground anyways for reasons which will become clearer. But each camp is divided upon those deity lines. Gotcha. So they are a very, very pious race, as written. And I have sent you a picture of the orc strongholds as is found in Vola's Guide to Monsters. They do a really cool breakdown of like what an orc camp looks like.
Yeah, I've definitely seen this image before, and it is so cool.
Yeah, it's kind of a lot to take in, as all of the Vola's ones are, but they're really neat. They're worth looking up.
Cool. That's really cool. Is it fair to say that if they're settling near other settlements simply for the purpose of plundering, does that make them nomadic, would you say?
I would say so. They're mostly nomadic. They very rarely stay in the same place for so long. Okay. But they have been known to stay in the same place for decades if they get like a sweet spot, like right between, next to a road between two cities where there's a lot of transport and trade.
Right. Yeah. Suddenly that road that's dangerous to travel and has been for years, is the result of a settlement that has not yet to be, quashed and sorted out by the more, quote, civilized races,
Yeah, exactly. So they rarely build permanent structures, but when they do build, it's really only for defense. Mm-hmm. And then they'll raid the neighboring villages from this stronghold.
Yeah.
And obviously during those raids, they will slay any humanoids that stand against them. So there's a little bit of back and forth here from Bolos, but it's fine. After they plunder a society to oblivion, they set fire to the remains of it to prevent resettlement. Then they return to their stronghold and go out in roving scouting parties to find a new place to pillage, and then they'll pack up camp and move there.
All right, then.
There's a little bit here on a war wagon, which is a cart that's been stolen from human or dwarves and converted to orc use with orc talismans, skulls, blades, that kind of thing. And the heavier of the war wagon, the better, and being forced to pull it is a mantle of honor, because it's what carries all of the spoils of war from any raid or pillage.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And a lost war wagon is sometimes cause for revolt and even revolution.
Oh, crazy. That's wild. It almost makes sense in this weird way, because you would think that sort of task would be or it's almost slavery-esque, right? But might is so important, and the strength to pull the plunder would be so important to this culture, eh? That's really cool. Really cool.
Yeah, the stronger, the better, the higher rank you have in the society. So.
Yeah.
And
I like that.
Surprise, they're mostly patriarchal.
Unless we're getting into leadership, are we?
Yeah, we're going to get into leadership. Well, we're talking about strength and that stuff. And that's how you become a war chief, is to be the strongest, be the most brutal. And then you're usually given a theatrical title. Many Arrows, Screaming Eye, Elf Ripper are just a couple from the monster manual.
Okay.
And every now and again, an extra powerful war chief can unite multiple tribes into what is known as a horde. This horde can then be known to kill other orc tribes and other human settlements for their resources, because it gets kind of out of control.
Right.
Snowballing, absorbing other orcs into the tribe, or the horde at this point.
Probably the definition of chaos at that point.
Yeah. And to get to that point, it would be commanded by one of the most powerful war chiefs on the continent. They are very, very smart. Their reign lasts as long as others will fear them. And every now and again, they will even be blessed by Grumsh, finding their weapons cut deeper with his blessings.
Ooh. Okay, so they have like an extra deific edge to what they're doing. Yeah.
And because it's so far away, I'm going to let you in now, because I expect you'll forget that is mechanically reflected.
Oh, is it? Okay,
yep.
Cool. Oh, I'm excited.
I was so afraid that orcs were going to be boring, but they're so fucking awesome.
Really? Oh, man, that's cool.
Like, they're low key for sure, but they're like, all of this lore is just, it's all so fucking good. And it's why I had such a hard time breaking it out.
I love that you start this little section here with they're mostly patriarchal, which is, a bit of a trope at the end of the day. But I immediately just kind of shifted to the whole 300 graphic novel and film, where it's like, and the Spartan-esque, strength aspect, and like the men did this, the women did that, but like the women weren't like, at least in that representation. I won't pretend to be a historian on the Greek history and all that, but the women were considered to be quite strong, and they had their place, and they were super respected, and they had the strength in a different variety, and then were elevated as such because of strengths in different areas and that sort of thing. It just reminds me of that in a little bit, even if it's not explicitly put in there. Maybe it should be, maybe it shouldn't. I'm not sure. But it makes me want to, definitely push away from the majority is patriarchal as a descriptor, and just say, strength in whatever form is what is considered to be the most important.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. The reason I included that is because that Volos includes it, and it is my issue with that line is that it exists. It is the only thing in this entire research that I've done that distinguishes male from females. The only thing is that, women can't lead. That's it. So I mean, there's some serious connotation and canonical issues with that, because nothing else addresses gender or sex at all.
Right. I mean, to be as slightly fair, or to give a slight more benefit of the doubt, it says most are patriarchal. Is that the direct line, or is it? It doesn't explicitly say women can't. It's just that
no, it definitely doesn't.
It's implicit that they rarely do.
Yeah, the problem is that there's a rule, much less an exception to the rule.
It's not necessarily not problematic, but it's it's not saying they can't.
It is, though. It absolutely is. That it is problematic. Mm-hmm. Like, you can't just throw that in when you've got no other gender connotations within the society.
I agree.
Like that can't. Your only line discussing gender can't be most times men lead. Mm-hmm. Like, that's not. Like, you fucking you took a swing you shouldn't have taken, and you fucking whiffed it. You whiffed it hard, and I got to call you out on that. Like, I'm not going to let that slide. Like, there's no reason that sentence should exist.
100%.
Like, you could have just easily not said anything.
Yeah. This is a topic we will be covering in Orctober, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll cover other problematic issues in another episode. But this one here, thank you for pointing that out, because I was going to get to it. But this one here is problematic for a completely different reason, and it's because it's the only line that references gender.
Right. Which is crazy. What an oversight. But, like I said, we'll be covering it down the line, so let's get to the rest of it.
Yeah. There is a little bit of magic in this culture. Not a lot, but there are rumors that if you slay an elf and call out Grumsh's name and you offer the corpse up as a sacrifice, the god Grumsh might appear. And if he does, he will demand that you pull out your fucking eye. If you then oblige, you could be given spellcasting abilities. And those orcs are then known as the Eyes of Grumsh. They tend to advise war chiefs or throw themselves into the front ranks of a battle because they're fucking insane.
Yeah. Now, I gotta say that so far, the real classic traditional sort of tropes have all rung a bell. But I don't think it's because of me remembering what I've read about orcs. But it's just sort of ingrained in you, especially when it comes to like Tolkien kind of stuff. And but so far, there's been a lot that I don't recall at all, and I'm so fascinated by. I'm really excited to hear about the pantheon of gods and sort of thing. I do recall this part, the Eyes of Grumsh and the pulling out of the eye and the magic part, but I don't remember much about it. So I'm also pretty pumped to have that retold to me.
Yeah, so they are actually a stat block in the monster manual as well.
Yeah.
They are they're one of the orc mages, and I think, if I'm remembering it correctly, the Eyes of Grumsh are actually more clerical than they are mages.
Okay. Yeah.
But we'll get to that at a later date. We don't have time for that now. But also the fact that sometimes they just throw themselves in the front ranks of combat versus spellcasting. I remember specifically that is also mechanically reflected. So
cool. Sweet.
But you mentioned the Pantheon. You asked the questions, and 30 minutes in, here we are.
Let's do it.
A little bit of primer. Orcs live in fear of their gods, and their society is entrenched in belief. They are a pious as fuck race. I think I've said that already this episode, but I want to reiterate it. Like, they don't believe that they're, like, there's not an orc out there who doesn't believe their gods exist. I mean, it's your game. Whatever you want. Rules is written. Mm-hmm. There are no orcs that don't factually believe in gods.
Yeah. And gods, rules is written, demonstrably do exist, right?
Yes, that is correct. Yeah. And orcs can see the influence of these gods in everyday lives, like bear claws on a tree, a flock of crows flying away, sometimes even a strong wind. Sometimes they probably look into it a little too deeply. They then have these signs translated by priests or shamans, possibly the Eyes of Grumsh. And every tribe has their own particular superstitions. There's a list of them in Volos. They're all pretty good. 3 ravens is a sign of good luck. It's lucky to spit where you're about to sleep. If you stomp your foot 3 times and utter Grumsh, it will ward off bad magic.
That's great. So strange. Superstition's so funny.
I like when it's included. There's a realism that superstition adds to things for me.
When I was a kid, I used to have this. I used to have a book. I think I got it for Christmas or something, and it was so random, but it was a dictionary of superstitions. And it was one of my favorite gifts. I read that thing through and through all the time. I was so fascinated by how absurd some of them were, and I wish I could remember more. It's been so long. The ones that stood out to me were odd ones I won't bother mentioning, but okay. But the such as, certain intimate acts might cause you to go bald, that kind of stuff, and
I can't confirm that one.
It was it's just such a strange book, and I just remember being so fascinated by it. And every time superstitions come up in these sorts of things, I'm always like, "Oh, that's so fun to play with." I'm glad I'm not superstitious myself, but it's because it really can be kind of life and what's the word? Engrossing. That's what I want to go with, but I don't feel like it's right. But you really just kind of take over your life, right? In an almost OCD fashion, if you allow it. And but it's always so fascinating to sort of have that part of your creative narrative and everything. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, you ready? You ready for the meat of this episode?
I am so ready.
Okay. The leader and patron deity of the orc people is Gruumsh, also known as Old One-Eye, also known as He Who Watches. I sent you in the Discord a photo, the last photo I sent you. It is all of the Pantheon, so I don't know if you want to pull that up full size. It will be the image on launch day for Orcs in Orctober because it's awesome as hell.
Sweet.
And front and center with a big old orc beard and a big old orc mane of long hair and one singular eye garbed in black spiky armor is Gruumsh himself.
And at least in this one, he's got an eye that's blocked out. He's not a Cyclops like in the 3E one. Yeah.
Which makes much more sense.
Yeah. He looks both badass and a little bit cheesy at the same time. It's so good.
Yeah. It's that beard.
It is the beard. Yeah. He's got like a near Santa chin beard. It's almost too fluffy.
Yeah, exactly. He is the ruler of the Pantheon. He pushes his children to increase their numbers so that they may kill elves, humans, and dwarves. That's his thing.
All right. He's a bit of a dick.
Yeah, he certainly is. He really knows how to hold a grudge.
Yeah.
And as we touched on a little earlier, he will cause certain orcs to pull out their eye and give them the ultimate touch of honor. Some are given magic, as in the eyes of Gruumsh, and others are given ferocious strength, as in the war chiefs that we talked about. All of which obviously must pull out an eye in service because he is, I guess, vain as well as always remembering.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly, from the origin story, I got that vibe. Like, he tried to settle in the mountains. It was already occupied. So he's like, well, I want to try the trees, and I want to try this, or the forest, and I want to try this, and try that. And there was nothing there. And then the gods started laughing at them, because gods are assholes, apparently. like why would they laugh at him?
Fact.
Poor guy can't find a home, and he's like, fuck you, I'll just burn all them down. Like, it's just a big old, dick swinging, just pointless. Oh, it's just so childish. The whole thing's childish.
It's the first day of high school.
Yeah. It's like he's got to assert himself now because he's being teased. And there's a part of me that does empathize, but like a origin story like that is just pure childishness from every direction, from every person involved. It is like a high school scene. It's so silly.
Yeah.
So holds a grudge because he can't get over his time in high school.
The next in line to Gruumsh's right, his proverbial right hand, is Ilnaval, the War Maker. He is holding a big old two-handed bastard sword.
Yeah, he is.
And this gentleman is loyal AF to Gruumsh. He is also the strategist, so he will create battle plans as well as forge new weapons and machinations of war and siege tactics. And orcs that show themselves to be a cut above, a little bit smarter, will gain his favor. They are groomed to become what are known as Blades of Ilnaval. They're also a stat block. They serve as captains, sometimes war chiefs, but very rarely because Ilnaval is a loyal right hand. And they are some of the fiercest opponents you will meet on the battlefield. Cool. They have an uncanny knowledge of when to move and when to strike.
Awesome.
And the next on the list is standing to Gruumsh's left. He is he's the big old boy in this photo.
Is he the god of beer drinking? Because he's got a big belly on him.
He is Bogtru the Leg Breaker.
Ah, I've heard that name.
I bet. So, do you know where that name comes from?
I don't recall. If I did know, I don't know.
So he is the most ruthless and powerful of this pantheon, even mightier than Gruumsh, and he embodies the force to purely overwhelm their foes in battle. It is said that he was once surprised by the mightiest of Behirs and was then trapped in its coils. Bogtru saw this as the ultimate test of his strength and he laughed as the Behir tried to squeeze him to death, and he broke every one of the Behir's 1,000,000 legs. The shrieks of this Behir having its leg broken are what the orcs now think is thunder.
That's amazing.
Yep. And a broken femur is now obviously the symbol of Bogtru, the Legbreaker's followers.
I mean, it's probably worth mentioning. Behir somewhere down the line we'll cover it, but it is a great serpentine monster with 12 legs and electrical breath. That's literally from the Forgotten Realms wiki, first line.
Okay.
I just quickly pulled it up just so I could say it.
It's like, wow, you're good.
Yeah, no. No, I'm not that good.
Yeah, so it breathes lightning, but every time you hear thunder after it breathes lightning is the sound of Bogtru breaking one of its legs.
Oh, that's a cool. That's definitely another superstition mixed in, right? But it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, and because of the ferocity of Bogtru, some of the orcs will enter battle a little recklessly, particularly on steeds. Aurochs, large creatures, bulls, and because these followers enter battle on these animals, the animal is then honored by Bogtru. And it is said to have a piece of Bogtru's spirit, and those animals are off the table. You do not eat the Auroch steed of a follower of Bogtru, because it holds a little piece of this deity.
Cool. That's really, really, really cool. I love that a lot. I'm having this like image in my head of like this big battle with an orc horde or tribe, and it's a thunderstorm. And every time lightning strikes and thunder hits after, like they just get re-emboldened, especially the followers of Bogtru. They're just like,
the cavalry.
Yeah, as every time lightning strikes, like it's like Bogtru's fighting a Behir. Yeah, he ripped another leg off. And just getting pumped up.
For sure. I love that.
Yeah.
All right, next in line, we have the young woman, coiled and ready to spring front and center of this pantheon, Luthic the Cave Mother.
Is there any particular reason why you called her young?
I think just colloquial habit.
Fair enough.
It seems unfair to refer to a lithe goddess as an old woman.
She might strike you down.
She will. Yeah, she absolutely will. So she is predictably the wife of Grumsh, and she is the main influence in orc tribe and society. She keeps the rage of the populace from exploding within itself, so she is the glue that holds society together. But followers of her invoke superstitions and primal magic. This is where we get shamans and druids and that kind of thing. And Luthic will sometimes come down, take the form of a giant cave bear, and because of which sometimes her followers will just straight up keep cave bears as pets.
Amazing. That's so cool.
To mimic the Cave Mother, followers of Luthic will grow their nails their entire life to create these long claws that they then paint black. And if they're found worthy, Luthic will then make their claws as hard as iron.
Ooh.
Hags ring a bell for anyone?
Yeah. Annis Hag, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Their metal teeth and fingernails and stuff. Oh, that's so cool. That must be a really crazy endeavor for an orc. And is that that's just orcs across the board? Something that, like you said, I guess I'm already going to answer my own question here. It's not male and female orcs that can do it. It's just orcs.
It's just orcs.
It's the only.
It's implied that they're female, but it is not.
Sure.
They're not just female. Yeah.
Crazy, really, really gnarly. And if you look at the artwork here of this pantheon, like her claws are ridiculous. Like.
Yeah.
At the same time, you'd have to have the hand strength to like really utilize them. Oh, it's an unnerving concept for sure.
Yeah. So the Claw of Luthic is also a stat block in Vola's Guide to Monsters. So we will dig into that a little bit later as well.
Cool.
The followers themselves, though, do tend to spend their days away from battle, protecting the young, taking care of the camp, while the quote unquote strongest orcs, Ilnaval, Bogtru, and Grumsh's orcs are out raiding and pillaging. But they also served as crafters, engineers, and armorers. So the Blades of Ilnaval will dream up these siege weapons, and then the Claws of Luthik will then manufacture these siege weapons, and then the warlords and the followers of Grumsh will then use said siege weapons. So it's a really like synergist relationship within these tribes.
Right. Totally. Yeah, a lot of synergy there. That's neat. I love that. And there was nothing to like emphasize per se that they are considered less in any regard based on the whole strength concept.
No, the Luthik, Bogtrue, Ilnaval, and Grumsh, the followers of, are all considered to be the strongest of the tribe. And that better than is not the right word, as we'll get into here. Sure.
Well, I was going to say, like, it's just there's your example of what I was sort of trying to get to earlier, is that strength comes in different forms. You know, crafters, engineers, armorers, they must, you know, they provide a strength, even in a supportive role, perhaps.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean they can't fuck shit up. Like, they will defend the camp.
Of course, yeah.
But they're the social glue.
Very neat. I like it.
Next on our list is Yurtris the White Hand, and he is on the far left of Grumsh, our right. He is that a weird-looking motherfucker with the glowing yellow eyes. Mm-hmm. So normally, he is depicted as covered in boils and rot, and is repulsive except for his hands that are pure white. He has no mouth and cannot speak, so when he comes for his chosen in silence.
Oof.
It is because of this perceived pestilence that the shamans of Yurtris dwell on the fringes of society, except they're as hardcore as the rest of the orcs. They will wear gloves made of pale elf skin to mimic their god's hands.
Oh, jeez. That's fucked up. Holy Jesus.
This gives them access to uncanny powers, specifically the use of necromancy. So they will claim bodies of fallen warriors, and this is considered to be a great honor, and they will send them to Grumsh. So we have our clerics here.
So fallen orc warriors specifically?
Nope. Fallen mighty warriors. It can be anybody as long as they were mighty.
Okay.
And they will send that body to Grumsh, or that soul to Grumsh. And they will sever the heads of any heroes or any mighty and preserve them, using a special punch to remove the bridge of the nose so that their skull looks like they only have one eye socket.
Oh, man. A special punch.
Yeah, that is verbatim.
Oh, man. That is, like, unnervingly my favorite so far. That's crazy. Tell me there's more.
Well, not much.
Okay.
Sometimes they will give this treatment to a especially powerful enemy, which we kind of talked about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a special sect of the White Hands that are treated as prized cattle called the Nurtured Ones. These are considered to be the chosen of Yurtris, and they are traditionally the weakest in the camp or the risen dead. And they rush towards enemy encampment like infested Terran to spread disease and infliction amongst the enemy ranks or camps. There is your obligatory StarCraft reference.
I was about to ask. So they're kind of like Zerglings and or infested Terran.
No, they're kind of like infested Terran.
Okay, fair enough.
Again, there's a stat block for these guys. They rush and they explode.
Okay. Oh, okay. They rush and explode. Oh.
Yep.
Oh, man, this is going to be so much fun.
The Nurtured Ones are my absolute favorite stat block. Yeah.
Okay. Just with that added on top, this is definitely, again, unnervingly my favorite of the lot so far. That's so cool. What a left field approach, but it just sort of fits and it makes sense. I love that you said they're treated as prized cattle.
Yeah, they are like herded off to the side because they cannot be brought into the camp.
Crazy. That's so cool. So, and that is explicitly risen? Because you said
some of them. Yep.
Okay, but not all of them.
Not all of them.
And so
some of them are just the weaker of the orcs.
And so these white hands, they use their power to turn them into these, essentially, these nurtured ones. Okay. Even if they're alive or dead beforehand.
Yeah, so the way Orc society works is that if you are rejected by, or you're not seen as strong enough to fight for Grumsh, Ilnavalt, Bogtru, or Luthic, you are then offered up to Yurtris. And then Yurtris, if you're kind of not strong enough or don't have the magical prowess to become a white hand, you become one of these nurtured ones, which are essentially infected with this pestilence.
Right. That's so
and if
crazy.
you are not seen as strong enough to be an explosive biological weapon,
Oh, no.
you are given to the cult of Shargas. And Shargas is also known as the Night Lord.
Okay.
It is the god of darkness and unknown, and he is the ferocious-looking being on the far right with the weird purple hands. And they, because of his domain, they live as close to darkness and as far from the other orc tribes as they possibly can. They are secretive and murderous, and other orcs view all of his followers, all of the cult of Shargas, to be depraved or twisted.
Okay. But they accept them?
Reluctantly.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, man.
So these younglings who are rejected by Yurtris that are taken up by the cult of Shargas, they have two options. They are either torn to shreds and devoured, or brought into the cult. So if you are brought into the cult, you have a couple of things that you could be. You could be a spy. You could be an assassin. You could return to the folds of ordinary orcs to act as an embedded spy. And then as an embedded spy, you then call the weakest links to keep the horde strong. So if you're going into battle and an orc refuses to go into battle, you then murder that orc.
Oh. Sorry, in case it was unclear, it was slightly unclear to me until you finished that. It sounded like you said call. You meant cull. They're culling.
Oh, sorry. We found another shibboleth.
Yeah. 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 Okay. They're literally.
That's just my East Coast accent there. Bud.
Oh yeah. What they're doing there is they're culling.
Yeah, they are culling the tribe.
They're culling the tribe, the weaker parts of the tribe. Who knew Orctober would make us go more Canadian?
We should have waited for the troll suite.
What's that there? Is that a bridge troll, is it?
There's your deep Canadian cut for the week, listeners. 3 dead trolls in a baggie.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so they go back and they cull the tribe of the weakest links. This practice is accepted reluctantly, but it is considered taboo to speak about or even to stop and watch. And if not, in a present battle, they can sometimes be called upon by the war chief to assassinate targets. This is frowned upon because Grumsh hates indirectness. So they live with the tribe, but the tribe kind of shuns them without actively shunning them. And if a war chief calls upon I think they're called Red Hands of Shargas, the specific stat block, they are kind of looked down upon as a war chief because they could not get this done through brute force.
Okay. All right. I'm throwing down what you're picking up now. Okay.
Yeah. So mechanically, the Shargas are rogues.
Right.
The Yurtris are clerics. Luthic is druids. Bogtru are
Barbarians
and cavaliers.
Oh, okay.
Ilnavals are fighters, and Grumsh is kind of everyone else.
Really, really neat. I love the reluctant acceptance of these Shargas acolytes, if you will.
I fell in love with this creature, the Shargas specifically. Even the stat block is awesome. I'm so excited to get to that stuff.
Yeah, really, really neat because it's so un-orc culture like in that stereotype. They accept them, but they rather dislike them, I suppose.
Because they don't follow the tenets of Grumsh, but
even Grumsh frowns upon them.
Is this character, yeah.
But he also accepts this Shargas into the pantheon. He must, right?
Yeah,
And,
I mean, Shargos has got to be related to Luthic. Like, it's got to be her brother.
Yeah.
Shargos is just his brother-in-law that he's got to deal with.
Yeah. He's just like, all right, well, we'll bring him along, I guess.
All right, bring the creepy goth kid and we can do this.
Yeah.
But they are useful and they are respected as being useful because they keep the orc tribe strong from within. You know, being one of these embedded spies is one of the highest honors because it A, shows that you have grown up to be a strong and mighty orc and that you can pass for normal.
Right.
And you have this extra honor of you know, being cast away, coming back stronger than ever, and murdering those who cast you away. Like, that is such a huge honor in orc society.
Yeah, if you hit that point, you've gone from the lowest, might as well have been murdered, but you've grown to something that is so much more well respected and appropriate for this culture.
Yeah.
That's
circle.
Really cool. Really, 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 really cool. In such a brutal environment. Unbelievably brutal, especially given the Yurtra stuff. Like that, your alternative is grow to be a badass or grow to be a living bomb. Like, what
I mean, again, those spies aren't all of the Sharkas. They're just the mightiest of them. Like, it's just a huge honor.
Hell of a thing, yeah. Really, this is so much cooler than I thought it was going to be. Oh, man. Yeah.
Like, imagine you weren't born good enough to be a dirty bomb and you became, like, killer of orcs.
Unbelievable. Oh, so cool.
Yeah, you can see why this is 6 pages now. Like, it's all too good to cut. Right?
Seriously. Absolutely.
Okay. We are done with orc lore.
That's it? There's no more.
No, there's pages and hours more.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Yeah, that's enough.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure we'll be covering tidbits more anyway along the way. So
we are.
Yeah. That's super cool.
We do have one sweet honorable mention here. King Obuld the 17th. Chief of the Many Arrows tribe.
Tell me, was the pause for pronouncing Obold or double checking what the Roman numerals you put in here were?
It was both. There were 2 pauses.
There was a double pause? Pause? That was good. Sorry.
Yeah, it was definitely more than double checking the Roman numerals. Because I was going to say 17th, and then I'm like, no, maybe you should make sure. Do the math. And then in my head, it was like, what the fuck does X mean again? How many is that?
It's been a while. Oh, that was good. Sorry. And his secondary name was?
He is the chief of the Many Arrows tribe. This is probably the most famous tribe in the Forgotten Realms.
Okay.
Specifically because he maintained a long time peace with the dwarves of Mithril Hall. And this is seen through Adventure Pass as well as through some of the Dritz storylines. Like, they come up quite a bit.
Okay. Gotcha. He maintained a peace.
Maintained, yeah.
And where does that stand in the culture as honorable, maintaining a peace?
It kind of doesn't.
He's famous for it, but not necessarily honorably known for it?
I think his lineage, I think he was the last King Obuld.
Okay. Man, we went through 16 iterations before him. Damn.
Yeah,
okay.
He was. It was a nepotistic tribe because they kept interbreeding, so they were the strongest members of the tribe because you kept the Obulds kept breeding until they had the strongest sons.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Or daughters, but at least 16 sons.
Classic patriarchy.
Yeah.
Gross. Moving on.
All right. We have
Hard pass.
we got one thing that I labeled here under fun fact. I don't know how fun it is, but if you want to play an orc according to the 5e rules, orc PC information can be found in Vol's Guide to Monsters 87 to 88. It is pretty basic. You've got your flaws, your bonds, all that stuff. Though there is one line that's kind of challenging. It's possible that an orc, if raised outside of its culture, could develop a limited capacity for empathy, love, and compassion.
Okay.
There is a lot to unpack there, and we're not going to do it right now, but I assure you, we are going to unpack that specific line at some point in this suite.
The only thing I will say is that, and I can't remember if it came up in Edens or not. It likely had, because it's been a thought in my mind ever since my first character I ever created for your first campaign. And it was in regards to, I think it's in the half-orc racial description, in that they lean towards evil alignment because of a lingering influence from Grumsh themselves that's hard to escape. Even on a, I guess they don't explicitly say this, but a genetic level essentially, or some such, or biological, or however you want to put it. And that would sort of fall in line with that exact phrasing of that quote you've given.
Yeah,
it is.
It does.
You're still right. It's a lot to unpack, and we will cover that down the line here. That just stood out. Again, I can't remember if it was mentioned in Edens. I would imagine it maybe it was, but it's a very interesting take.
Yeah, there are some biological predispositions in here that we as a show do not agree with.
Oh yes.
But we as a show do agree on one thing all the time, and that is how much I need to drink after that.
Oh boy. I need a beverage to sort of really let all that sink in.
So, fun fact, Freeman.
Yes.
Because we decided to shake up the episode format, I decided to shake up what I'm drinking.
What?
No, actually, the store was all sold out of blackmail, and I was too tired to walk to another store. I am drinking Strangefellow's Guardian because I am going to guard you through this suite.
That is...
it's got a dragon on it.
You're going to guard me through this suite? Is that literally your best segue?
Yeah, that's what I got, man. That
was the worst.
That was exhausting. That was exhausting, man. We're not even done yet. There's still another page.
Oh, man. You did a terrible job. It was great up until now. Oh, my God. Well, at least it's another Strangefellow's beer. I give you that.
I made sure it was a Strangefellow's beer. I almost bought a boombox, but it didn't feel right. I was fucking choked that they were out of blackmail. They've never been out of blackmail.
Well, who's out of blackmail? That's crazy,
right?
Well, at least you're drinking Strangefellow's. What do we have for cultural lore? Oh, I'm curious about this for sure.
Yeah, so we have a little bit. It's not a lot, because there's just not a lot out there. Mm-hmm. The first little bit is that the word orc comes from Latin orcus, meaning goblin, specter, or devil.
Oh, okay.
So we are not going to touch that any further because that will have its own very special episode called Orcus.
Oh, okay, sweet. Okay.
So the word orc, or a variation of, was probably first used in Beowulf as Orknias, which is roughly translated to evil spirits, though its meaning is very uncertain. It could mean corpse, zombie, white, dwargar in this context. It could really mean any of those things. However, orc, with a K-E, is found in 1656 Don Quixote, presumably to mean ogre.
All right, well, what's Tolkien got to say about orcs?
So, first we need to cross this bridge that D&D orcs are definitively based on Tolkien's orcs. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it, and he did change them. So, Tolkien's orcs are more... Essentially, they're just more humanoid goblins. They're larger, they have less pronounced features. Mm-hmm. But they are still brutish, aggressive, ugly, and malevolent, in Tolkien's own words.
Okay.
However, he walked back a little bit of the aggressive monolithicness of the race in some of his letters that were never actually... Well, they may have been published, but in some of his letters later on. They were. Okay. It wasn't in any of the stories.
Right.
As far as I remember, and as far as any of the references I've been able to come across. So... Token then walks back that they have this sense of morality, and they started out as a corrupted version of elves.
Right.
Yeah. So sometimes he used the plural orqui in his earlier work, but it was eventually corrected down the line, which kind of sucks because in his world, the word orc comes from the Elvish ruku, meaning fear, but orqui was a bastardization of ruku, and orc is a bastardization of orc. So we never, in modern publishing, we never see orqui, which is O-R-U-Q-I. We only see orc. So we never see that evolution of the Elvish word ruku. So we're going to call it there on Token for today.
Yeah.
Fuck we Tolkien. Will. He's dead. I do. You know, I do a really good deep dive in Urag, which is coming up later in this week.
Sweet. Awesome.
I wanted to touch on them in pop culture, but honestly, they're kind of just fucking everywhere.
Yeah.
Warhammer we touched on. They're the main shaft in Warcraft. They do tend to have the same components of the Tolkienian or the D&D orcs, that they are a swarm army. They are chaff units. They are very fragile, but they hit pretty hard. Glass cannons, I guess, is the best way to put that.
Sure.
And in culture, at least in like the miniature world and the RPG culture, orcs are very, very popular.
Yeah.
Almost everybody I follow who plays 40K plays orcs.
Crazy.
So they just kind of fucking appear everywhere because they are just this nameless, faceless fantasy army. They are the Cobra Vipers, the stormtroopers of D&D and fantasy, period, at this point. Yeah. So
cool. I have one little tiny stupid but kind of fun fact that anyone listening who's familiar with Warcraft, in particular World of Warcraft, might already know this. But you might have a laugh about this. There was I don't know if it was a mistake per se, but there was a common trend in World of Warcraft. If you choose the Horde or you choose the Alliance when you start, right? And among the Horde is, of course, Orcs. They're sort of the racial leaders of the Horde, or at least the origin of the Horde, mixing, and then they bring in trolls and other things. There's a whole history and lore behind them. But aesthetically, they had is in that game. There's a lot of aesthetic approaches to what you're wearing and stuff like that, and how can you have an aesthetic look in what way. They added like things like transmogrification and stuff to really allow you to use old gear you found and pretend your new gear looks like that and sort of thing. Anyway,
okay.
Yeah, so it's like you can kind of fashion yourself, right? And but orcs,
that's why games shouldn't last 30 years.
Orcs for a very long time, any kind of shoulder armor piece that you put on them were automatically like massive, like outrageously large. Like 3 times the size you would think they should be. And that's been from the beginning of the game. And they had this major update in whatever expansion, I can't remember at this point. It's been a while since I've been a proper player. I've tried each expansion, I'm probably done by now. But they actually put this major update and they reduced the size. And there was like mass public outcry. They were like, what the fuck did you do to my fucking orc shoulders? like people lost their shit. It was so fucking funny. And oh man, it was great. It was absolutely great. And even I never really played an orc, but I had friends that played them for years and years and years. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, fuck it. Put the big ones back on. They're like these hunched over weird, kind of like almost hunchbacked like creatures in the game, and they had these massive shoulder pads, and all of a sudden they were just like shrunk down. Everyone was like, nope, not having it. No, give me my fashion back. I want the large ones. And they did it. They were like, okay, sorry, our bad. We thought it would look better. We upgraded the game and we fixed the scaling, but apparently our fix was not a fix. It was a break. According to the public, and I just loved it. I loved that. I just thought it was so funny. So there's your pop culture reference to orcs from Freeman. Totally relevant. What?
Yeah, that's great. It is a fantastic anecdote. I don't fully understand it. We as a company do not support Blizzard in any way. especially currently.
Oh, not currently at all. Fuck them. I'm over it.
But they are not handling what's happening here well. So yeah, bring back the shoulder pads. I don't know. I don't care.
Nor should you.
I don't want to ask anybody for stories because we haven't done anything yet. So if you want to follow along and you want to see a photo of that orc pantheon or maybe some of these sweet shoulder pad memes, you can find us at Twitter or Facebook at EncounterPod. You can find us on Instagram at encounter.pod. You can check out some of those back episodes we referenced, specifically Ettins at encounterthis.ca, or we'll link it in the show notes in the description of your podcatcher of choice. If I feel bad asking for money on this one. This is not our best work, but if
as
you
a
liked
whole,
it,
as a whole, it's it's one of our best works.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. If you want that troll episode and you want to learn more about that sweet Canadian 3 dead trolls in a baggie reference, and you want to recommend a troll suite, you can do that for $10 a month at patreon.com/encounterthis. $5 a month will get you a handwritten thank you letter and access to the show notes, so you can see the notes that we used to produce this, and by we I mean me used to produce this, and they are, as always, a fucking mess. $1 a month even will get you access to a private Discord, so you can coax me into a voice chat and yell at me for not liking Peter Jackson.
Oh, so now you can add him.
Yeah, if you pay for it, yeah. Gotta have standards.
That's fair.
Or if you want to talk about Warhammer 40k or StarCraft or talk to Freeman about WoW, yeah, all that. Discord, we're there. We're there all the time. He apparently doesn't want to talk about WoW, so $1 a month you could piss him off at least once a day.
Damn it. He's not wrong.
But I will happily jump into a voice chat and discuss the merits of Tolkien and demerits of Tolkien with anybody who wants to pay for it. I don't recommend supporting us on Patreon specifically for spite or vengeance, but if that's your bag, I'm not going to stop you.
Hey, by all means.
Yeah, and if you could rate and review positively on your platform of choice, that would really help us out, and it helps new listeners find us, and we have new listeners finding us every day, which is crazy. We're growing here at Encounter This, which is wild and lovely, and we are so grateful to you who want to keep listening to our bullshit, because this wasn't our bullshit because there's no real opinions in here other than my opinion on Tolkien and Jackson.
Which is an excerpt.
Which will be a Patreon exclusive excerpt.
Absolutely. That was a rant and a half.
This was mostly just fact. So that's fantastic. So this is a fact episode according to D&D Dungeons and Dragons. And if you want to hear more, you can subscribe. And next week we will be at you with more Orctober.
I can't wait.
Is that your Batman voice?
Where is she? No,
that was pretty good.
It's what's his face? Christian Bale's Batman voice.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So your Batman is separate than Christian Bale's Batman.
No, I'm just doing Christian Bale's Batman. It's not mine. I'm not claiming ownership. That's a copyright infringement, dude. Come on.
You cannot copyright a style of talking.
We're professionals here.
A huge thank you this week to Jessica Zecker as Neff the Sunder, Duncan Forbes as Gorok the Warmaker, Scott Barber as Mobad the Urog, and, as always, Freeman Easton as the Elder.